Yo, what's up guys? You got pokeaim here with a highly requested video. A lot of you guys have been asking me, whether it be on Twitter or my comments or even on my Twitch streams, what Pokemon will I be using in my Sun and Moon playthrough. Yes, I have seen the leaks, and which is why there's actually a spoiler alert on the screen, because this video itself will be containing some Pokemon that were not officially released by Pokemon themselves, at least yet, but were actually data mined from the Sun and Moon demo, which is why I don't want to spoil you if you don't want to be spoiled. Also, because I was actually tagged in the Pokemon Sun and Moon team tag by Excalibur, whose original video will be linked down below, I figured I might as well make a video about my Pokemon Sun and Moon team. So, without further ado, cue the intro. So of course we have to start the video with the starter Pokemon. This is the first Pokemon that you get in the game, and you either take him with you throughout your entire journey or you just dump it sometime early on and just replace it with something else. Now, I've always been a fire type starter lover at heart. Is that the correct way to say it? I don't know. But my first starter was actually Charmander in Pokemon Red, and since then I've always loved the fire type. Charmander is actually my favorite starter of all time, and it's going to be no different in Sun and Moon. I plan to start with Litten and obviously get Torracat, but this isn't about Litten or Torracat. This is about the final evolution. This wrestler, we're just going to call it Lucha Litten at that. I absolutely love the way it looks. Now, a few people don't like the fact that it's bipedal, that stands on two legs, but I love it. I love it for a wrestler. I think it looks sick, it looks cool, it looks tough. Some people also don't like the fact that because it looks like a wrestler, it might be fire and fighting, and they're like, oh man, not fire and fighting again for a starter. One, I wouldn't mind that too much. That's great coverage offensively anyway. Look at Infernape, look at Emboar in the lower tiers, but also because it is a wrestler of sorts, and in some images it was seen spitting, like spitting in the faces of its opponent. That's considered a dirty tactic in wrestling, which does lead me to believe that this thing might actually become fire and dark. Not only is it obviously, you know, black, the Litten itself is obviously black and in orange slash red, but the fact that it was using that move and seeing using that move leads me to believe that it might actually be a fire and dark starter, and I would love for it to be fire and dark. Fire and dark is such cool typing, especially if you couple that with fighting type coverage. If you give this thing, let's say like what, Fire Punch or Crunch or anything like that, or Sucker Punch even, because if it is a dirty wrestler, I can see it using like a dirty tactic like Sucker Punching your opponent. I would love for this thing to be fire and dark, and then give it like fighting coverage of like close combat or anything like that. Like I could definitely see this thing being good, but that's not really why it's on my team. Obviously this is more about aesthetics, and I just love the way it looks. I love that it kind of reminds me of Mucha Lucha, and I love that show growing up as well. Just a wrestler in general, and I can't wait to actually put Lucha Litten on my team. Obviously that's not the official name at all. I can't wait to find out its name as well. Torracat is pretty cool. Litten itself is pretty cool, and this is not to say that I don't like the other starters. No. If anything, I think that Shiny Rowlet's final starter looks the coolest, not gonna lie. And I even like Poplio's final starter, the Siren, but I definitely have to go with the fire starter. I'm a fire starter boy at heart, easily, and that's why we're going to be adding this Lucha Litten to my team. So next up is actually a Pokemon that I believe you find early on in the game as well. I believe this is the bug type that replaces the Weedles or Caterpies that you would find in Generation 1 of Pokemon, but this is nothing like Butterfree or Beedrill. This is Vikavolt. Vikavolt is one of the toughest looking bug types I have ever seen, at least early on in a game. This has to take the cake for the toughest looking bug type early on in the game. And I'm talking about early on in the game. I'm not talking about something that might be later on the team. You know what I'm saying? You'll probably know what I'm saying just based on that. But Vikavolt is one of the coolest looking bug types I have ever seen. And I love the fact that it is bug and electric. Actually, the fact that it's bug and electric, it is weak to fire. So the fact that Litten is there is actually pretty cool, because Litten does, you have some sort of type coverage going on. It can resist the fire type attacks coming at it, and Vikavolt just looks so cool. It evolves from Grubbin, and I absolutely love the way it looks. It does have Levitate, which is also pretty cool. Gives me a ground immunity for, again, it works well with Lucha Litten going on, since Lucha Litten is obviously weak to ground type attacks, and then Vikavolt can come in on that. But like I said, this is the next Pokemon on my team. I absolutely love the way it looks. It kind of looks like a ship straight out of Star Fox. It just looks so tough. I absolutely love the way it looks. The fact that it is bug electric is so cool, and I love that we're getting these really cool typings early on in the game. Another Pokemon that obviously shares bug and electric would be Galvantula, and that's not something you saw until later on in Pokemon Black and White. That's not something you saw till way later on. But I love that Vikavolt is bug and electric. I love the way it looks, and I am definitely adding it to my team. So next up we have Palisand. Now, I absolutely love the way this thing looks, and I love its description. Palisand controls human adults, making them build a sandcastle that provides camouflage and also raises defensive abilities. Unlike Sandygast, which is its pre-evolution, if Palisand loses some of the sand from its body, it can restore itself on its own. Now, I love its typing, Ghost and Ground. That can also be found in Pokemon like Golurk or Golett. So it's a pretty cool typing. It gives me a rock resistance, something that both Vikavolt, and as far as I know, if Lucha-Litten actually is Dark and Fire are both weak to, as well as an electric immunity, and I absolutely love its description. It sounds like a leader, and I think it works really well with something that is essentially a sandcastle or a palace of sorts. I also love the fact that it says after that, if Palisand loses some of the sand from its body, it can restore itself on its own. So that leads me to believe that it might actually have the move Recover or some sort of recovery move, which can make it a really cool Pokemon in general to use. A Ghost type with recovery sounds pretty nice, especially because most Ghost type, if not all on the top of my head, I think the main way of recovery is usually Pain Split with most Ghost types. And I also like its ability Water Compaction that raises its defense ×2 or +2 when it's hit with a Water type move. Unfortunately, one of the drawbacks for that is I believe that it still takes damage from that. I don't think that's confirmed, but I believe that it does still take damage from that. If it doesn't take damage from that, amazing. Now it also has an immunity to water, on top of the fact that it has an immunity to electric and an immunity to normal. But I absolutely love the way Palisand looks. It reminds me of, just times on the beach. And a lot of the Pokemon I'm picking are also just based on memories itself and just aesthetics, and I love how it looks. I love how the sandcastle controls human adults and forces them to make like more of it. And it's kind of funny, like the way you think about it. Well, you see people on the beach making sandcastles, and you might think that's voluntary, but no, this Palisand is actually forcing them to do that, and I think that's so cool, and that's why I'm adding it to my team. So next up, we have a Pokemon that I believe to be Ghost and Water type. If you look at your screen, this is a newfound Pokemon that was in the data mining of Sun and Moon. And it looks like it has the helm of a ship as its head, the compass as one of its eyes, and then it looks like an anchor as its torso and I guess nose. But I absolutely love the way this thing looks. I'm assuming it's going to be Ghost and Water types because water ships you usually find on the water, and then it just looks eerie like Ghost. It actually reminds me of the Flying Dutchman from SpongeBob, not the Flying Dutchman in general, but specifically from SpongeBob, and specifically the episode where SpongeBob and Patrick were meant to be his crew, and I just remember him saying, "You're good, you're good, you're good," while they're totally destroying the ship while he's steering the boat. So I absolutely love this Pokemon and the way it looks. I'm assuming it's going to be Water and Ghost, and obviously, well, Water and Ghost is a typing that is shared with Pokemon like Jellicent or Furlish, the pre-evolution of Jellicent. And what Water does for the team is it obviously gives me resistance to that for my Lucha-Litten, which is weak to that, for my Palisand, which we don't know how Water Compaction 100% works. I'm assuming they showed that it took damage, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I do apologize if that was shown, my bad. I'm not 100% on that, but I love that we have something like that, as well as the fact that if Lucha-Litten is actually Dark and Fire, it does also give us a resistance to Ghost, which two of my Pokemon are currently weak to, assuming this thing is, of course, Ghost and Water type. But offensively, Ghost and Water type is awesome. Gives me a Scald resistance as well, and again, I just love the way it looks. It just reminds me of that SpongeBob episode, and the second I saw it, I just had to take it. It just looks so eerie, and I just loved it. So that's why we have this Pokemon on my team. I don't know what the name of it is, but this Anchor Ghost is definitely going on my squad. So the next member of my team resembles a diving bell spider or a water spider. This is a spider that lives most of its life entirely underwater, and this was found during the Sun and Moon data mining of the demo. Now, this arachnid, I believe to be water and bug type. though it could very well be water and electric, which is actually the typing that I'm hoping for. But looking at it, it looks so cool with the bubble wrapped around its head, and I'm assuming it will be water just based on the fact that it is very much resembles the water spider. And though I could very well see it being electric and water, just because I guess the way it looks and like its eyes kind of resemble be like energy moving. I don't even know. Maybe that's just me hoping or being hopeful that it will be being hopeful that it will be electric and water. But I think bug water is definitely the more obvious one. And even though bug doesn't really do much for water besides giving it neutrality to grass and also giving it a weakness to rock and flying, to name a few, I still do like the way it looks. I've always liked spiders growing up. I've always thought they were fascinating. I always loved watching the quote-unquote scary movies with giant spiders attacking civilians and them having to fight back. So for that reason alone, I'm adding this thing to my squad. The final member of my team, I kind of hinted towards earlier on in the video where I said Vikavolt is the coolest bug-type Pokemon early on, but there's probably going to be something later on, and that is definitely this Pokemon. Whimpy Odd has an evolution, and it is everything but a wimp. This thing, I'm calling it Champod. This thing is actually a champ. Look at it. Whimpy Odd hit the gym and decided to come back this ridiculously cool-looking, strong-looking bug, and this is easily the coolest bug-type Pokemon I have ever seen, and that's counting Pokemon like Genesect, counting Pokemon like maybe Mega Pinsir, Mega Beedrill, Vikavolt, even on the list. This is easily the coolest bug-type Pokemon I have ever seen. Whimpy Odd is obviously bug and water. I'm assuming this thing might become water and fighting, maybe? There are examples of a bug type evolving into a type that doesn't have bug. For example, Skorupi evolving into Drapion becomes dark and poison and loses that bug type. So I'm thinking this thing might actually end up being water fighting, bug fighting, something with fighting. It looks way too tough to keep just bug and water. This is not a wimp. This is a champ, straight up. Now, Whimpy Odd does have the ability Wimp Out, which means that when it is when its HP drops below 50%, it will run away or swap out for another Pokemon in battle. I'm kind of hoping that what they do with this mon is they completely flip that ability, that when this Pokemon hits you with an attack, it actually forces you to switch out. So I'm kind of hoping it's kind of like almost like an eject button of sorts in an ability where it forces your, or I guess a red card more likely will be the better thing, because our eject button would more so be Whimpy Odd's ability, whereas this might be the exact opposite and be like a red card and force your opponent to switch out. So I'm kind of hoping it'd be like that, but this thing looks so cool. Easily the coolest bug type Pokemon I have ever seen, and probably the biggest upgrade to an evolution that I've ever seen. And I have to add this Pokemon to my team, and that is my entire squad. I have Vikavolt, potentially Luchalin, the Water Spider, the Anchor Ghost, Palisand, and Champod on my squad. So thank you everybody for watching. I'm actually going to be tagging my friends Blunder, Chimpact, Envy, and Duncan Knee Deep. So if they want to do a video on this, I encourage them to. Obviously, anybody down below, I encourage you to tell me what your squad would be as well. Thank you everybody for watching. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Feel free to subscribe. Sun and Moon is right around the corner. I definitely will be uploading that. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Goodbye, friends.